Ah, yes, my good people. Season 7 of the VS Gaming eDisky season is still dominating our thoughts, especially after last week's conversation around the top 5 players in the league. Now, this got me really thinking about the fact that these players usually belong to an established and successful esports org. The likes of Pirates, Bravado, you have Goliath there. They're always present in the grand finals. Is this a coincidence, or does money breed stars?
See, well, I think it's obvious. The more money you have, the better players you have.
Okay.
Proof is in the pudding, and the pudding ila. Money breeds better players.
You know what? Fair. But historically, sports has taught us that even the greatest, the best sporting dynasties built with superstars can fail dismally.
Hi, Shem, but good thing we are joined by our VS Gaming eDisky experts, Thendo Plays and Snare, to unpack where exactly the proof lies. But fair too, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, doing good, man. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm
You're
having a good time. I'm happy.
Nah, I'm ready, man.
So tell me, yo, VS Weekly Army, what's popping? It's your boy Wasabi. When it comes to sport, we have always seen that the clubs with the most money generally buy the best players, giving them more chances of winning. Season 7 of the eDisky League is well stacked with top esports organizations such as ATK, Bravado, Goliath. These teams usually have a roster of the best players, which leads up to the important question, guys. Does money buy success?
Snare?
Can buy me.
Facts, my brother.
But I don't know. On
I
a
don't know.
serious note, I think money definitely can assist in success, right? Buying success is very difficult, I think, because the player themselves also still need to be willing to be successful.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
Sneh?
I think it's one of these interesting things where the nature of the question is interesting. Does money buy success, right?
Yeah.
You can buy successful players, right? And a lot of the orgs we're going to end up talking about, that was their route to success.
Sure.
You find who's the popping person right now,
Yep.
buy him, add him to the roster, all of a sudden you're much better.
Yeah.
But some of the orgs we're going to talk about as well went the other route. They found them before they were successful, before they were on the come up, right? And then, yes, the money eventually came, but the money wasn't necessarily there at the beginning. And then by the time, then they end up succeeding together. And then eventually there's tons of cash, but the person was there from day one. So it all depends on how you view spending that money. Are you involved in creating a project from the ground up, finding the next big superstar?
Yeah.
Or do you just want a Galacticos team right now? So it's sort of the dichotomy between the two and how successful
it can be very strategic sometimes, actually, especially for organizations on what their goals are, right? When acquiring certain players, right? Because sometimes it's like an investment, right? And then you can see that investment in about 3-4 years time, they're actually going to be fruitful. So I think when it comes to, like you're mentioning, like buying success and then finding these stars that maybe people don't know about, right? You can almost pinpoint it there and saying, yes, they did buy that success, but it can be very risky, I think, a lot of the time.
You know what, I'm thinking, at the end of the day, you can buy better chairs, more comfy chairs, better controllers, better consoles. Isn't that helping at the end of the day?
And to a certain extent, which is why I want to ask. Let's go with that first example you brought up there, Snare. I'm cooking in CSGO, I'm knocking streetwise threes, aces all around. Everybody's going down. My stream numbers are through the roof. Why then would I want to join an esports org at that point?
I think at that point, the conversation for you is, what do you want out of this, right?
Okay.
And for a lot of players who are just comfortable in life, right? They might be streaming very well, like you mentioned, they have a decent presence, people know them. And for a lot of people, that's enough, right?
Sure.
That's fine. But the reason you join an esports org is primarily to leave a legacy behind, right? You want several years to pass and people look back and be like, yo, this person, for those 5, 6, 7 years that you were active in the scene, not only were you dominant, but you couldn't pay attention to that scene without your name coming up.
Like,
and usually to prize a
Proud
brand.
with Cloud9.
Yeah,
Is that what we're
exactly.
talking
Cloud
about?
with Cloud9, Simple with Navi,
Sure.
these
Yes.
kind of things where the player is always this good, right? But to get to that next level, you
That's what you
generally
actually
need an organization behind
I
you.
mean, it's already evident in South Africa. If you're thinking about eDisky and EAFC, you think Goliath Gaming, right?
Sure.
Because Goliath Gaming, I think, is the pinnacle of the kind of organization you want to be representing as an eDisky player, And I think if I have to go back to it, you look at somebody like Young Savage, all the way back when he was grinding, when he was still part of Goliath Gaming, it was that whole thing of like, wow, this guy's in the lights. And I think a part of being a professional is that you do need to get yourself into that light.
Sure.
We like underdogs and we like when people are grinding behind the scenes and what. But genuinely speaking, right, if this account has 5,000 followers and you have 300, you definitely want your face on those 5,000 followers, right? You want those people to see you and know that you have value as well when it comes to, being a representable player in the scene.
That legitimacy that
it comes with
it.
legitimacy.
Exactly.
Yes.
But now, if orgs can afford better infrastructure, how does that help a player? How does it help the development of a player?
I mean, y'all already mentioned earlier some of the example of like getting better equipment, right? Better gear.
Yeah.
That helps a lot. But in my experience, what I've seen that players really benefit from is having someone to just help manage their life, right? To be like, okay, we're going to take care of some of the things that you don't have to, right? You don't have to worry about your social media as much. You don't have to be the one that travels, let's say, to the embassy to try and get documents to travel. You're not worried about booking travel dates between cities to go and compete in various tournaments. They take care of that for you. You just focus on the game. So that's, I think, the number one thing that you need from an organization. Can they make your life as easy as possible so that all you're doing is just focusing on the game and nothing else?
Yeah, like, I mean, infrastructure is really important in that regard, right? I think especially if you go to like Bravado, a really big dog in the South African, esports industry. If you've gone to the offices, I mean, they have like 3 rooms just dedicated for players to sit and play at, right? And sometimes, especially, kind of going back to that old question that we just had now, where why do you even want to represent these brands, right? Is to get those facilities, to get those opportunities to improve your skills. If you have just like, this group of people following you and making sure that you're on the ball. And I think Snare is right. Sometimes it can be really difficult because in that capacity, you almost become talent, right? I think, all of us can understand when you're talent, you just kind of want to focus on us being here and doing this. You don't want to be like, but I forgot to do this.
To deal with this.
And I have to deal with that, right? So the infrastructure really helps to maintain players' just winning mentality. And I think it helps make that winning mentality. It can also make it a little bit difficult, right? Where you kind of also now maybe have a little bit more things to think about, right? When it comes to your daily prep and your daily objectives as a player. It's no longer, let's say if you were at home, you just wake up and play. Now you might have to wake up and first touch with your manager, and then you have to go to the office to play XYZ, or now there's media days and now there's photos, right? But I think if you don't get that kind of infrastructure around you, you also just get left in the dust, and then people only keep considering you as an underdog. And I mean, no one wants to be an underdog.
No one wants to be that. While we're still on the topic of infrastructure, is there a level of like camaraderie that comes with being able to go into GG or ATK in the studio there and see everybody else? I walk in there, Snares there, Tendo's there, oh guys, we're playing today, let's scrim or whatever. Is there a level that, like, does that help?
Definitely. I think not just the camaraderie around being surrounded by other esports people, but being around a culture of winning, right? If I'm in the room, I'm wearing the GG jersey, for example, right? And none of us play the same game, right? But all of us are winners. But all of us have a trophy in our locker, right? We look at each other differently, right? We behave differently because now I'm around other big dogs, you know? And I think another big thing is not only having that winning mentality around you, but it makes you want to strive harder, right? Because if I'm around winners, right, how do I stand out? I just have to win harder. I have to be that real big thing. And I think that helps, like, it's not a coincidence that a lot of these players that join an org that has a culture of winning almost immediately hit the ground running, end up winning themselves very shortly afterwards.
It's just the vibe in the office is
it's
winning.
I think it's necessary. It's that whole conversation about being a GOAT. At the end of the day, goats move in herds. You know what I'm saying?
I've never seen a goat walk alone.
Exactly. So you need to make sure that you are surrounded by these people. Like, even now, if you look at Goliath Gaming, like, you have so many people that are surrounding someone like Zaid, for example. You have this up and coming star, I believe his name is Hakim as well, who was, someone I didn't know about until coming into Goliath. And then that moment when you step into Goliath, you have to ask yourself, I know the boys, the Goliath boys, about Tools and them. I'd be like, no, if Tools trust this guy, I can probably trust this guy. Us as professional, casters as well, we start to believe in this person. They say, no, but if Goliath Gaming can trust them, why not? If ATK can trust them, why not? Bravado, same thing. I think a new organization that is showing a lot of trust in somebody has to be Exceed. Trusting Caleb, right? Because that's a big talking point as well, where now it's like, cool, Kalen has bounced between orgs, right? Previously, Giga Hub, which was a little bit of a, I don't know, it was a situation. Situation we won't talk about. But now with Exceed, and you know how internationally acclaimed this Exceed is, right? It just brings this really good light onto Kalen and highlighting him quite a lot. Yeah.
Guys, coaches.
Yeah.
Coaches are a big deal.
Yes.
Okay, I hear you
Of
get
course.
into the org, there's people there ready to help you. Do the coaches actually help, or is it better to just go one man? Because usually when you got into the game, you did it by yourself.
I have never, this is across esports titles.
Yeah.
Right? Across every esports title I've ever participated in, fighting games, EAFC, Dota, shooting games, never once have I seen longevity come from somebody that doesn't have, even if not a coach, right? Somebody that you trust. Somebody that's
Mentor
overlooking
vibes.
you
Sure.
and making sure. Yeah, sure, you can have these flash in the pan moments, right? You have one great tournament, things are popping off. Like you say, you started by yourself, but can you stay by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody that's around you, they have coaches, right? They've got that support staff behind them. They're getting extra input into their games. I mean, hell, we saw in Cape Town, right? How many times did you see Wasim running from out of nowhere?
Yeah.
Going to have to go give the download. And even though Kayan didn't have an official coach there, like, he had the boys. He also was not playing alone, right? At some point, it just becomes impossible for that journey to go by yourself. And the big thing for me about a coach is usually it's a previous player. They have the understanding, they have similar experiences to you in that moment. Not only can they help, control your emotions, they can give you that third person view and be like, oh, okay, I'm watching what you do, but I know you can do better.
Yeah.
Here's this other angle, you're playing this game, you're like, okay, maybe take this person out the team, maybe change up your formation, do something a little bit different, and you need that extra pair of eyes, because if you're losing the game and you think of that yourself, you're gonna start second guessing.
Yes.
Exactly.
Am I
Yes,
really sure about this decision? Is it the right thing to do? But the coach will be like, brother, don't worry.
Yeah.
Like, relax.
It's just some more,
I think, bringing it back to Cape Town, Wasim was very critical for Zaid just to even make it as far as he made it, right? Because once again, it's just to have those extra eyes that you're not being able to see what's happening in and around. You're very focused on what you're doing and how your passes are going, whereas you need that extra eye and that extra voice of calm to kind of bring you back down to say, look, we've gone through this many times. Every scrim, this is just a situation now where the stakes are just a little bit higher. And like you said, it just sometimes takes that experience from a player that's been in that situation who can coach you to just to help you out. And once again, if we're going and linking it back to, does money breed stars? Does money buy success? I seldom find it that players have coaches if they're not part of organizations, right?
Sure.
It's very difficult for me as an individual to be playing and then I'm like, hey, homie, do you want to just sit with me here, tell me what I'm doing wrong?
Yeah.
That person will also feel like, okay, what are we doing
Yes.
here? I also need to kind of feel like I'm some form of management because, again, that coach has that upper step from you that they can go to the bosses and say, you know what, right, for the best of this player, I feel like actually he's not performing well here and
Maybe we
there,
should
right?
switch things
And
up,
that's why you sometimes need that coach to be the bridge, because then it doesn't have to be, the big bosses coming to the player and saying, dude, do
Yes,
this,
you're
what's
right.
going on?
You're right.
You know?
Yeah.
The bosses will be like, no, it's fine, tell the player X, Y, Z, and let's filter it down. And I think it's critical for like Zaid, especially because of how emotional he is, having someone like Was as a coach, because you need someone to bring back your emotions. You need somebody to keep your eyes on what the actual goal is. because
So
again,
you don't
it's
get
really
tilted
difficult.
easily.
On your point about having someone in the organization as a coach, not just an individual, I was coaching one of my homies at Rage, right? He was playing a Tekken tournament, and then it was going well, right? Until he got top 4, né? And then he lost, and then now we both had to look at each other like, who do we blame?
Actually,
Were you playing badly or did I coach him badly?
I mean, it's actually an interesting thing to touch on. Like in those situations, teams have coaches. Who is actually to blame? Like, is it the coach or is it actually the players?
But that's where part of the coach's job, right? Is in that moment to be like, take the responsibility
Take the
away from the
blame.
player.
Yes.
My bad, I messed up, I gave you the wrong advice. Sorry, bro, it'll be better next time. Then the player doesn't have to be stuck in his own head, right?
Yes.
He's like, oh, it was this guy's fault. If it wasn't for him, I'd be fine. And he's okay now.
I think if I was a coach, I'd whisper to your ear, but do if you want.
If you want, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Choose this character.
Yeah, but only if you want. Now, this is an open question even to you, Sibu. Do you think now, once you've joined an org, now the money's coming in, the jerseys, the fancy equipment, do you think the players change?
Some of them do.
Snare, did you see? Snare just had a picture of someone. I just saw the bubble pop out.
Let's hear what Sibu has to say. What are you going to say first?
I think there is almost no way, especially in a country like South Africa, where you are making money more than the average person from playing a video game and you do not change. But the change doesn't have to be bad, I feel. The change doesn't have to be bad. You can still be cool about it, but there's no way, guys, you're telling me on my PlayStation 5 in Shayu FIFA, not just my friends, but I'm also making thousands, and I'm gonna be the same guy. Oh, what fun.
True.
Excuse.
Yeah, I think it's also the kind of change, right?
Yes.
That
Yeah,
matters at the end of the
yes.
day,
Yeah.
right? Because I think Sibu was right that there's no way you're not going to change, right? But then some people, what they do is that like they change by doubling down even harder on the
Yes.
dedication to the project.
100%.
So they completely zone in, right? The entire rest of the world melts away. And if the change is in that direction, then it can be fine, right?
Yeah, no, I think
You're also sorry, you're not worrying about money.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I hear you. Because sometimes, being part of an organization, getting all the perks, it puts a little less pressure on you. And I think a lot of players are still young.
Sure,
So,
yes.
Abo Mamzo, they're like, hey, but those studies, what
Yeah,
happened to
yeah,
the studies,
yeah.
right? But I think, look, to bring myself here into perspective, I'm not a professional, but just pursuing a career outside of the norm, right? The gaming career. It also took my parents some time to be like, ish, mara,
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
going on?
honestly,
yeah.
But, the moment I joined DNMK and then they saw that, oh, but wait, the picture could actually look like this, that's when, they start to be like, okay, aware. The moment you come home and your jersey's there, and the jersey, you tell it, and it has your name.
It says
Yes,
Thendo Plays on the back,
And then like, okay,
yeah.
aware.
This is a serious thing.
But quick question, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Who do you guys think has had the best jersey? Like so far, low key.
From the teams.
Yeah, from the teams, obviously.
I like bravado
from the-
jerseys.
Pirates just, for me,
But the
Ooh,
Pirates jersey is a
Pirates,
Pirates
okay.
jersey.
but that's the thing, it's like, it's the Pirates jersey for football. That's what we've
Yeah.
known our whole lives. We just know this. But then you give it to me and it's a gaming jersey. There's just a different
That's kinda
energy
dope.
to it,
That's kinda
guys.
dope.
Okay.
There's a different energy.
I
so you guys are Pirates, ne?
Not bravado.
Please say bravado.
Yeah, bravado.
saying bravado?
I'm saying Pirates jersey.
Okay,
It's just too clean.
Yo, that old Bravado jersey was fire.
Bravado never misses, guys.
Yo,
They
that old
never
Bravado,
miss.
yeah, I could do the classic one. I'm going to have to go to the old Bravado. Or actually, you know, that was really a very nice jersey, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not around anymore, but and they only had a little bit of a foray in eDisky, right? The WRG, the old White Rabbit Gaming.
White Rabbit Gaming,
was
yes,
really sick.
yes.
Yeah.
No, but you guys, you don't use your eyes, ne? Have you seen that Goliath gaming jersey?
Okay.
That's the thing.
That's that one with the
With the-
triangles that's out
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Are you trying to tell me? When
But I knew
put
you
the-
were going to say it. So I didn't-
Yeah, he couldn't say it.
No, but I'm telling you, once
Yeah.
you put something like that on,
Sure.
your entire mentality changes.
The G's.
Because now you're carrying your name,
Yeah.
right? You're carrying the organization. You also have to carry the sponsors as
Yeah,
well,
that McDonald's sponsor, you know?
right? Yeah, it's hectic, right? So I just think, again, just on that one, do players really change themselves a lot? You have to. I think you wouldn't be human if you don't change a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it can be bad, like you've mentioned, but I think it can be good once you realize, what you have to step up to.
Sure. Guys, we've watched a couple of grand finals, right? And we know the big money that these guys are making when they win. Does the money take off the pressure or does it increase it? Does it decrease?
Oh,
Or does it increase?
I think it depends on how many tournaments you've played. If you've
Okay.
won a big tournament, right, then I think there's no more pressure at that point.
Fair.
Right? You're like, whatever, I've gotten this kind of money
Yeah.
before. If you haven't, though, and especially if it's your second try trying to make that happen, I think that's when pressure goes through the roof. Yeah. And especially also in a surprise run, right? If you're one of the people that came into a tournament knowing that you're that guy,
Yeah,
né?
yeah.
You get top 2 or sharp, né? But then if it's a surprise run, the higher you go, you're like, yo, guys.
That's
Man,
my thing, my
yeah.
boy.
You look at the man, you're like, yo, we doubled.
Yeah.
Hey, man,
Yeah.
100,000 now. Okay.
Controller's starting to get slippery now while you play.
Nah, it can get hectic, I think. For me, I think you need to just look past the money. I think the best professionals will tell you that they just actually want to win
Sure.
a lot of the time
what,
versus actually the money. But it's almost impossible to not think about the money, right? Because that's where the pressure really comes from. But I think if you can remove yourself from, thinking too much about these price pools, right? And I mean, hey, shout out to Telkom, they be doing a thing
They
there.
be doing some damn thing.
When they hold those checks up,
Yeah.
you can see that, like, no,
Yeah.
I fought for this check.
I work here and I'm still shocked at the check. I'm still shocked. Yeah.
So I just think that, like, once as a player you get to that point, and this comes where all these things that we're talking about, they mold together.
Yeah.
When the infrastructure is when your coach is telling you, my boy, don't worry,
Sure.
right? You're gonna win. You might not win this one, but always focus on winning. You know, when the team is posting you losing, because that's also critical. I think when an organization can also highlight you in your down moments when you've lost, to say, you know, GG's. Unfortunate that the player went out, but let's continue moving forward. You know what I'm saying? I think an org that does that quite well is ATK. I think ATK never misses with the thank yous and the well played.
Yes.
That's kind of like their brand. You
I
know?
love that. On that, before we end off, does it help the blow to be part of a family like that, or do you think that it actually makes it feel worse? Because I'm imagining I'm playing for Pirates one day, I play, I lose. Then I have to go home. Do I that jersey with your name that you were carrying, does it make it even heavier, or you feel like maybe, or does it depend on the org perhaps?
Depends on the results, right?
Okay.
That everyone else is having. So if you lost and everyone else lost, it feels bad. It's not so
Sure.
bad. If all of them won championships,
Yay!
Yeah, that's a
Now you're not invited to the after party. Okay, fair.
No, but I hear Snare on it depends on the org. I think a player that you mentioned, you know, just before this was Atibira, right? Up and coming star, signed to Ekasi eSports, right? And I think if you look at that organization, they're not really like a massive organization,
Yeah.
but they've been making good strides here and there. And sometimes it's just about representing those underdogs,
Yeah.
right? Those people that believed in you, that's even better sometimes. Because those guys, I think, regardless, can be happy to just have you in the tournament representing their brand. But then, you know, when you start to go to the tippy tops,
Things change.
Bravado and Goliath,
Yeah.
it can be a little bit like, ish, you know, if you're in that team bus home, you
Yeah,
lost,
ish.
it can be a little bit rough,
It's tough.
I think.
Yeah.
But the best coaches will also tell you that, like, look, we're family. You need to, when family is like loss, you know,
Yeah.
we celebrate like a loss of life. It's like, it's
Yeah,
almost like
I get you.
it's a weird comparison, but it's kind of like you have
Yes.
to celebrate sometimes in those losses to kind of be like, bro, it's okay.
We were there also.
there.
We
We're
got
there.
into
We
the
felt
competition.
your
Yes,
emotions.
yes.
And honestly, I think if you're behind the scenes, it's more stressful than it is playing. I think a lot of players tell me that whenever I do interviews, right? I think Snare the same. They'll tell you that, you know, actually playing is not that deep.
Yeah.
But when you're there supporting
you're just
somebody,
watching.
when you're watching and you can't do anything,
Yeah.
that's
No,
where
we
it becomes
felt it.
ignored.
George,
No.
are you joining an org
I feel
anytime
like
soon?
after this conversation, guys, you've convinced me I need to join an org. I'm not sure what I'll be doing there.
Okay,
but
okay, guys, whoa. Let's hear Wasabi's org. Which one?
What's the
this
name?
is your opening. This is your opening.
Real one or one I make up myself?
Your one you make up yourself.
real one,
Real one.
real one.
I'll probably join Paris
Of course.
or Bravado.
Yeah.
But if I had to make one myself,
Yourself?
the quarters.
I think that's where we're going to end it off, gents. It was fun, like the last time, but we got to cut things short.
Well, gents, I think we can agree to disagree and let the outcome of eDisky Season 7 have the final say. But do head over to our socials and let us know what you think. Is it money when it comes to esports? Does it have any influence on it or not? Angaz. It's at VS Gaming World.
After the break, we bring you all the action from day 2 of eDisky Season 7 Grand Finals. You won't want to miss this.
Telkom. Possible begins here.